All right, today's trivia is who can name the song that is.
It's a new one. We haven't done that one before, I don't think.
Shit. Good morning, people, and welcome to another edition of the Early Watch, hosted again by G Webs while Jimmy's doing stuff that Jimmy needs to do.
Doing Jimmy works.
I don't know. And thank you, G Webs, and good morning.
Yeah, morning, no problem. This seems like the second shift. Dano got in and woke up early and beat us to it. That's pretty cool.
Well, I went in there with him, so I was here being sure he wasn't actually trying to do a lame copy of the Early Watch.
Like the Hong Kong version of Early Watch?
Yeah, but basically we just discussed Hawaii volcano and lake evaporation.
I'm going to say I did pretty good. I almost fell asleep like 2 hours ago. And I was like, I'll just rest my eyes here for a bit, that thing. And then I wouldn't have even been here right now. But I stayed up. My eyes are burning. I'm a little loopy. But this way, tomorrow I should be back on. I think this should be the thing that'll, knock me over into the night schedule. In which case,
Your eyes are burning from tax stuff.
no, I get to do that after this. That was my thing. Like, I'll just go ahead and sleep a little bit today because I got to do taxes or whatever. But I said, screw it. I'll just be tired for all of that and then go to sleep after. Sleep during the hot part of the day. But we've talked about we start normally at 7:30 my time, which I guess is 10:30 Eastern, and I think normally you guys started at 10 or 10:30 back in the day, which is 9 your time.
Right.
So, but you said you're up obviously over there at 9 a.m. So we may, especially if I get flipped over to that schedule, which I'm looking forward to, that's a cooler time of the year for me here. We could do this a little bit earlier too, so we could.
That's
So
good hour earlier. It'd suit me.
Okay. And then I'm also trying to figure out. I want to start walking again on a regular basis, and where I can sneak that time in. So if we go live, let's say for an hour earlier, then I might be able to do a little bit of walking now, and. So yeah. So anyway, just a little behind the scenes talking to people about what the schedule may be here coming up next week.
Yeah, I'm really flexible about the time. I preferred earlier than later because this is like the middle of my day, and I can't really plan to do anything unless I just blow the show off.
Okay. Well, yeah. Then we'll work towards that.
Because by the time we get done, it's 11:30 here, and it's too damn hot to go out and stand in the range or anything like that now. Part of our range doesn't have any shade or any roof or anything like that, so you just cook. They did put up a new roof over the rifle range, which is a nice addition, and then they built a new cowboy action shooting range that's got a faux porch on it. Basically, it's a porch and then just a wall made to look like storefront, sort of. But there's a roof over the porch, so you can get in the shade there too. And they put out steel to shoot at there, which I enjoy doing. But I wouldn't want to do it, when it gets to 90 and humid here, even in the shade sucks. I got to say, they spent my freaking membership money well. I mean, they added a new 50-yard range, plus they put up all the roofs that I mentioned. They put a big backstop on the north side to protect. There's a farmer's house that's about 3/4 of a mile away, so now there's a whole backstop in there. So it's big. It's got to be 25 feet tall. So spent my freaking money, at least in places I can see it.
We got a place called Pima Pistol Club that's in the foothills of the mountains, so it's quite a bit of terrain, but it's down in the bottom of like foothills. So every once in a while it rains and you can't even get to it, kind of thing. They've been there for quite a while, and then the neighborhoods grew around it, but it's like horse properties, ranches type of thing, not necessarily neighborhood. Well, there's some neighborhoods now, but had been just ranch houses and stuff. So there's the various bays, and one of them's the Long Rifle Bay, and it points east into the mountains, into the national forest and the mountain. They're literally a mountain, like 9,000 feet, 7,000 foot, elevation. So mountain. And some jerk put his house, like he bought property, put his house up. So there's no way to build the berm high. Like it would be impossible. It'd have to be like a 200-foot tall berm. So basically there's this jerk. I guess it's possible for somebody to shoot his house. I mean, you'd have to be doing it intentionally, but it's definitely freaky to see a little white house on the top of some hill, right at, out at the end of a rifle range.
I'll tell you what, I built a range myself over at my wife's uncle's place years ago. And basically, he was down in the sand area by the forest that I hunt at. And I just dug into his backyard. He had a hill rising up in his backyard. And it rose up to the neighbor's fence. I just dug into that and buried a bale of hay, big round bales. And we shot into that bale of hay. And we was out there shooting one day, and his neighbor come up and walked and stood right behind the bale of hay on his own property while we was shooting. And I approached the guy and I said, look, he said, I was just wondering what you guys were doing. I said, look, you can come over and watch if you want, but don't stand here. Because at first I didn't see you, and I was shooting centerfire high-powered rifle. I don't know which one anymore, but stupid son bitch is up standing on top of the backstop, basically. Are you out of your fucking mind? And he wasn't trying to be an asshole. He just didn't.
So I was gonna say, like protesting or something. So he's just being stupid.
He was just curious. He didn't have any livestock back there. I think they may have turned a horse out there at one point, but I had never seen one. And we were well below that. I mean, there wasn't really much issue of him getting shot, because he was probably 25 feet above where that bale of hay was buried, because the slope went up that much. But God, people do stupid shit. And my wife's uncle's neighbor on the other side of him built a place after the range was already built and put in. And then he comes over bitching about his shooting. Calls the sheriff. Sheriff comes down and says, hey, there's nothing you can do. As long as they're not shooting at unreasonable hours of the day, they can shoot all they want here. And we finally got the guy to come over and shoot, and he enjoyed it. Whenever we get out shooting, then he'd come moseying over if he's home. But this other guy, man, he just baffled me with being that stupid. I don't get it. I really don't. I mean,
there's something to, like, some people just like to find complications and shit and like to be ornery. So there's probably something to the fact where you move into a place that's near a place that's going to be loud. It's like people that move into an airport and all of a sudden realize airplanes are loud.
Yeah, well, that other guy, once he come over and shot once, he was cool with it. He enjoyed it. And he came back, shot several times. I don't know if he ever bought his own gun or anything. He did mosey over every once in a while. That's one of the reasons. Go ahead. Excuse me.
No, go ahead.
So that's one of the reasons I like to always take a 22 with me when I go somewhere like that, because if you get somebody that wants to try it out, I don't want to put a 30-06 in their hand.
That's a real good point. Yeah. A lot of people that shoot don't think about it unless you're taking new shooters out. But yeah, you could put them behind like a real recoil, and they might not think about it. And then the next day, when their shoulder hurts or whatever, they're gonna have like a day to stew on. Like, yeah, it wasn't all that fun, and now my shoulder hurts. Now I go to pick up my tennis racket, and it's blah blah blah.
Yeah, I do. I try not to do that whole macho dumb shit of, here, shoot this. Ha 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 ha. The idea is not to run people off, but to bring them into the fold.
You watching the YouTube side?
No, I can't.
Sorry about that. So Patriot said he sent an email to everybody that said it was an article about a guy who was being attacked by a mob. He shot to scare them off, but he hit a bystander killing him. So he killed the bystander. The guy who was getting attacked by the mob and shot a bystander is in jail now. Then he follows up with the guy was being attacked. He randomly shot and hit two different bystanders that weren't part of the mob, killing them. So now it's two people. And he goes on to say, and he was guilty since he said he shot randomly to scare off the mob instead of shooting at a person in the and missing, killing someone else. That's that's frustrating. But I gotta agree with Midnight saying, warning shots are more dangerous than people think, even shooting in the air. But unfortunately, it proves in court that you weren't aware of what was going on, so you don't get to just. There's no way to dodge the responsibility of that, the liability of that.
Yeah, you're responsible for every bullet that comes out of your gun.
I guess there's something to be said for the panic and the situation if you're literally getting attacked. But on the other hand, I don't know. That's a horrible situation right there. It's definitely the mob's fault if they truly instigated it, and that bystander was truly just standing there minding their business, and all this went down. That's horrible, and I agree that you had something to do with it. But what would be the difference if the mob distracted a driver and that driver ran off the road and hurt someone? It was an innocent bystander. That would be, again, I guess, the person in control of the vehicle, but the person in control of the vehicle had a brick thrown through the passenger window or the driver's side window, and it caused him to go off. It would responsibility to go whoever threw that brick, right? I think it would be in this case similar. At least I would think an attorney would have something there.
I'm sure the dude's going to do time. He would have been better off to shoot a few of the people that were attacking him. And I haven't looked at the article. I don't know the situation, so I'm just kind of speaking off the cuff here. But if you draw your gun to shoot, you best be shooting at somebody that is threatening your life or serious bodily harm, and not some poor innocent motherfucker who's just there.
I guess again it would be, let's say you're getting attacked by a group of people and you get into your vehicle and push the gas pedal even though you haven't got upright in the vehicle, and then as you lurch forward away from the people attacking you, you hurt someone else. Again, you're still responsible for that action, I suppose, but what caused you to do that reckless act is the violent act of another on you. So that's a tough one.
That girl that got killed at that rally last year by the guy in the car, that was what he was saying. He was running from that mob, and they were actually beating on his freaking car with clubs and bats and shit. So, there is some corroboration to what he said, but and he actually didn't hit her with his car. He hit her after he hit another car, and the other car hit her. But he's still going to jail, or is in jail.
So no on the gun channel side is saying the shooter admitted that he fired randomly. So the judge ruled that it didn't constitute use of deadly force against the attacker and didn't charge the jury for self-defense. And he says, check out the Andrew somebody at Law of Self-Defense or watch last night's Civilian Carry Radio for a legal recap. So that's cool. That's what it's all about, is figuring out where the knowledgeable people are discussing these and then checking that out. So let me see. Civilian Carry Radio. Is that a podcast? YouTube.
Posted a link.
It's on Firearms Radio Network. Oh, he did? You still got to refresh over on Gun Channel. Sorry. I've done that too. Thanks.
Yeah, I just did.
6 minutes long. I don't want to play their thing because I don't know them.
Or a restaurant, the Silver Star Smokehouse and Saloon. It caused the two men attacking him to stop attacking him and to run away. The defendant fired at the larger attacker as he fled, striking him in the femoral artery.
That's interesting. So yeah, we got the link there. I'll throw it over on the YouTube site for anybody that's interested. So thanks, Patriot, for bringing it up, and thanks, No, for helping us figure out a way to address it with somebody who's knowledge about what's going on here. 27 views, and it was published yesterday, so hopefully we'll give them a couple of more views. Law of Self-Defense is the name of that channel.
See here, that would get you in fucking jail. If you shot
like
the guy while he's fleeing.
It sounds like he's in jail. I'm gonna go see what's going on with my garbage on the back.
Here it requires you to be in immediate danger. You or somebody else being with immediate danger, and as soon as that immediate danger leaves, they take off and start running away. You're no longer justified shooting.
I think I missed the garbage truck again. Dang it, I was going to follow through with something. I didn't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation when people were chatting on that subject, but that was warning shots in a mob. What the hell was I thinking? Oh, well. I think they're messing with our route is what I think is going on with the trash. So that's why I'm not sure if he's going the other way. Normally he goes down the one side of the street way down and then comes back up. So I've got like a 10-minute warning that I can take the trash out. But now I think I woke up when the trash went by and this was just the recycle truck. So that's my trash update. Did you have another topic you were jumping into? Have any other emails from Early Watch Nation out there?
Let me double check here.
So since while you're looking there, do some updates. This is going to end up being my daily podcast for a bit, just because I need to pay the bills, right? So this is going to be sort of a mix between Early Watch and Daily Gun Show to some extent. So I'm going to talk on some of the things that I would talk about on Daily Gun Show, if that's okay with Tony and Jimmy. Went to log into my YouTube account yesterday and I'm struck again. So I have another community strike. This time it's for a video about an 1897 shotgun. So, an 1897 is a cool shotgun. I had it on a table and I talked about it and I showed how it breaks down into 2 pieces and how that's cool. And then I showed how it can slam fire. And this is just on a table in my room here. So nothing really shooting or anything. And I posted that video in 2014. So 4 years ago, I posted a video about a shotgun. And last night they decided that it violated the terms of service. and I got another copyright strike, so I can't live stream anymore. I was able to live stream for about 2 days there, or what it felt like 2 days. I guess it was maybe a week. So yeah, that's frustrating.
Well, it's takedown, so that makes it an assault rifle.
I don't know if it was because I slam fired in it. I don't know if it's because it was a shotgun and like now they're after shotguns. And I don't know if it's because I took it apart. But I do know that the video was 4 years old and that it was private. And we tested it a little bit last night. If I were to show you one of my private videos, you wouldn't see the title. You wouldn't see a little button that says, I'm concerned about the violence of this video. You wouldn't see anything that identifies that video at all, except that it had a crazy URL, with all the little crazy 758 ampersand 45, just nothing that you could use to relate it to actual video. So that means that YouTube is internally going through and looking at my 4,500 videos that I got on that channel and just randomly deciding at some point that this video now isn't in compliance with our terms of service today. And that means I either have to delete 4,500 videos off of YouTube so that there's no way for them to delete anything. And in that case, I'm just waiting for any video to be triggered because anything I type is going to have gun in it. So yeah, really rock in a hard place. So fucking annoying. Anyway, that give you time to find your thing?
There's nothing really new. I got an email from Ozzy yesterday that talked about the guy from the Illinois State Rifle Association and said that he was saying that assault weapons bans stop high school shootings. I watched the video and he said that the assault weapons ban do nothing to stop shootings. That's what I heard.
Is it because it's like said in a way that's kind of confusing or could be interpreted, or is it just like, I don't know, just different understanding of it or something? Or I mean, is it because it's confusing, or you just literally come up with it?
I believe that the dude he's not a very good speaker, which I can relate to that. But to me, it was clear that he said those bans don't stop high school shootings. Let me see. I got stuff that I've been saving for a couple of weeks, actually. First off, a question I want to pose to the audience. And I picked this up somewhere and I don't remember where. And that's, what's the appropriate age to start taking a kid hunting with them carrying a gun? Just pose that to the people who are listening, see what they think. I personally think it's not really age. It's to do with the kid and how they react with guns and, whether they're mature enough to go out and carry a gun.
So is there an angle to it? Because I don't know. I know kids, but I don't deal with them. And the times that like they'll go, where does this come from? Or what's a pig? Or like, what's a bird or something? And then is that when you go, okay, let's go find out where we get this food on the plate from? Or is that an aspect of it?
Not from where I sit, no. They are already well versed in that because I bring dead stuff home and clean it.
Oh, there you go. So I think that's where I was at. So I would see the dead stuff, like the dead deers, and definitely the mounts and stuff. You eat or whatever, and you'd know like this is so and so's deer or whatever. You knew you're eating. And then to me, it was just always watching the older guys go hunting and having to be the guy sitting there like a little chump staying behind. So for me, I think it was probably like whenever I don't know, like you're saying, I never really asked, but at some point they probably figured out, all right, probably worth having him there. He's like not enough of a liability to be there, or like it's better to let him be there than to have to deal with him bugging us constantly.
I took my one grandson when he was 7. I took him out, but I didn't let him carry a gun. he conducted himself well. He's quiet, not fidgety or anything like that. So I'll take him out, do some squirrel hunting this year. Plus, I have another grandson that's 10 that's never been out. I'm going to take him. Matter of fact, I told his mom to get his uh, apprentice hunter's license. Means I can take him out there and he can carry a gun. But there's no age in my mind because it varies from kid to kid on how they act when you take them out. Can they go out there and be quiet and stay on the task at hand? Do you trust this person to carry a gun?
And then you do it in stages, right? You go deer hunt, or you go like rabbit hunting or squirrel hunting, then you go bird hunting, and then you go to deer hunting or turkey or something, so that it's not like, I guess maybe it depends on the kid too, though, because I guess if a kid has always heard the stories, because I can remember feeling like a freaking expert, because all you do is hear all the stories every year, like, oh, this happened this year, this, oh, can you imagine this happened, or I waited forever and then that happened, or this happened after. So you feel like you've been through it, done everything. You're hearing all the intimate stories.
In our family, there was those of us that were taken out on fox hunts when we were 5.
Fox hunts?
Yeah.
Fucking England, where you're on horses and you got all them terriers?
Illinois is where you're wading through ass-deep snow with following a couple of dogs. I fox hunted twice when I was little. I didn't care for it. It was fucking miserably cold.
I couldn't deal with it. There's no possible way. If they would have made me go shoot dogs, I would have never been a hunter. I'd have been all PETA or some shit.
Well, it's how they put it to you that changes your mind there, because coyote and fox decimate the other game. Fox especially. Fox stay in a small area until they empty it, aim, and then move.
Yeah, I'm been around for decades and I've heard all that, but there's still no chance I'm shooting a dog. I don't care what size or color or nothing. I'm shooting at dogs. But anyway, that's a whole different discussion. That's probably what I was getting at, is though you want to take them. I'm also Instagramming now too. So welcome people on Instagram. This is the Early Watch. This is a show that's been going on for a couple of years now between Tony and Jimmy. Been running this out of, kind of co-hosted out of Illinois and Arizona, and we run live on gun channels every morning. Right now we're screen sharing, so it looks a little weird, but I'll stop that. Anyway, welcome to the people on Instagram. I don't know if I've ever streamed this show before. Anyway, I guess I was saying that, kind of walking through squirrel hunting or rabbit is pretty good for kids, right? You can do that with a 410 single shot and still be effective. And it's like fishing. You want to give them something that's catchable, right? Something that's, you come home with a win. So rabbits and squirrels, you kind of sit there, you kind of walk around, you play it by ear. Depending on where you live, I guess, in the season, you kind of know where squirrels and rabbits are going to be.
Now, when my girls were younger, 10, 12, maybe 13 years old, I started them on coon hunting.
On what?
Coon hunting.
Oh. So raccoon hunting, what is that? Going out at dusk?
You go out at night. I mean, it's not necessarily dusk, but and you follow a dog through the timber, or dogs, and wait for them to tree coons. And then there's one person carrying a gun to shoot the coon out of the tree. And it's pretty easy to do if you're in an area that's fairly flat. So I thought that'd be a good one. And, you get the kids out in the timber at night and give them that experience, because until you've been in it, it's hard to envision what timber looks like at night, especially like October, when it's still fully leaved. There's still a full canopy blocking out the night sky. And I started them on that. For one, I was into it. And two, it's easier to pay attention to the kids because the dogs are looking for the game. You don't have to worry about that part. So you can take your kids out and walk through the woods at night, basically, and maybe get a coon or two. Break them into hunting pretty easy, but also in conditions that may be kind of scary for a kid. And you want to get them broke of that kind of fear at some point. So I wish I'd had the foresight to take my daughter squirrel hunting, but I never thought about it.
Going from at least out here, and from what I remember, I mean, rabbits are obviously always on the ground, so it doesn't really matter, but it gets how far of a shot. But out here, rabbits are more of like walk around, see one. And we got jack rabbits or cottontails. They're basically the same way. You walk around, see one, and then, I mean, unless you're really, really good, you're going to see it at some distance. So then it's a matter of like being accurate. And depending on the critter and the time of year and all that kind of stuff, it's either going to sit there and wait for somebody to shoot at it, or it's going to be constantly poking around. And it's a kind of a, you got a minute to shoot it. Oh, it's moving. You got a moment to shoot it. Oh, you got a moment, right? Or you go out with shotguns. I think with kids, though, we'd go out with 22s. But anyway, you go from like that to like squirrels, because then it's sort of walk around shooting down. And then once you figure out the kid can hit what it's aiming at, right? And that it can do it quick enough and it doesn't get all flustered and it's not an issue. Then you go out to squirrels and now you're shooting up. And it's different. Like you say, it's got woods and trees, and now you're paying attention to like a more wide angle, right? Up and down instead of just left and right. And then you go to birds where it's 360, but also movement. And after that, you can hunt anything.
Yeah, well, there's not a hell of a lot of bird hunting here that I like.
Oh, well, that's one thing we got out here is the doves. You know, they'll hang out in the scrub trees. We're not like desert like New Mexico, so we got trees and bushes and shit. So that's actually super fun. They'll come out from like skeet, head height, shoulder height from the ground sometimes. Sometimes they're running around, so they're literally on the ground. Sometimes they'll just be looking at 12 in front of you, and 6 will fly in from over the top of your head. Be pretty fun.
We got doves here too by the billions, but they're so damn little, hard to hit, and there ain't much to them when you get them.
Well,
when I think bird hunting, I'm thinking pheasant.
You're right, but doves are, like you say, they're like catching panfish, right? You go out and you get a dozen of them or whatever, a couple for each people, and then all you got to do is, well, I don't want to be gross in the morning, but they're very easy to clean with no tools. And then what you end up with very quickly, faster than fish, is a bunch of little gross bird meat. I don't like it, but I know people that do. You wrap that with bacon, put a jalapeno in the middle, and there's a lot of people that really like that. Throw that on a barbecue or what. I think some of them will soak the things and stuff. I like to say I don't like eating birds, so I don't eat them. I'll go shoot them. Shooting them, super.
Everybody in my family that hunts them says that doves are great, but I've never ate one. Pheasant, on the other hand, god damn, I love that.
It's like, let me eat the amount of meat in a shrimp, but let's put a shit ton of bones in there just to make it tough. Like that, I don't want to see the challenge or the fun of eating tiny birds.
Well, what people around here do is they just pull breast meat out.
Well, yeah, but you still get stuff in there, right? You still get the bones, like the ribs.
No.
Oh.
No, it's just about the size of a chicken McNugget.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, they do get it out of there. I'm trying to remember. Now, when I guess you don't hunt them very often, but do you keep the little hearts? I know people that will keep the little hearts too.
Nope. I've maybe been dove hunting twice.
Oh, okay. Out here, it's a pretty big thing because I think it's because it's so freaking fun. Plus, you have to eat so many of them. You have to eat like 3 or 4 if you're really hungry, right?
At least. From the size I seen breasts on a dove, they ain't very damn big.
Like I say, I don't eat them. I just help shoot them.
I would love to go pheasant hunting, but we just don't have pheasants here anymore.
I guess technically we have them out here, but I don't think they're wild. They're farmed and the ones that get out kind of thing. And I don't think we ever had them here. They're from people bringing them out here. They wanted to shoot them.
I think pheasants are imported in the United States anyway. They're not native.
Oh, okay. That's everywhere. Okay.
Yeah. But there's so few here that it's not worth the effort. And I don't want to kill the few that we got in this area. They got hammered in the late 70s with 2 very harsh winters back to back. And it decimated our pheasant population, and they have never been able to recover. And it's a shame.
So this is how we know Clay is crazy. He's out there on Instagram saying 1 quail is enough for a meal. I don't know what the hell he's eating on that thing, but they're like Tony's saying, they're like 2 bites or a bite, depending how big you are. Plus, they cook down a little bit, right? So they're only like a spoonful to begin with, and then they cook down probably a little bit.
Quail may be a little bit bigger than dove, but not much.
Well, see, that's the other thing. You're out in corn country, so you got birds that are eating grain and blah blah blah. Out here, it's not quite. They're out there eating scrub and shit, so they're a little leaner, I think. They're not so
Now,
fat.
if he's talking about chucker, that's a little different because they're a little bit bigger. They're like freaking Cornish game hen size. But
Now, Travis is out there. That's definitely different because that's where upland bird hunting is the thing, right?
oh yeah,
Is it upland? Upland is little birds that you're shooting while you're walking around?
that's part of it, I think. Yeah.
Or is upland? Anyway, whatever the thing is where you're shooting pheasants and quail, I bet you those are the biggest ones in the country, right? Up in Nebraska. They got all that room and
Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, they still have a shitload of pheasants, which surprised me because you'd think our climate would be more conducive than the upper Midwest. And our problem here is the farmers have taken hedgerows and fence rows and all that shit out, so there's no good cover anymore.
yeah, you were talking about that. That we were talking about that one time. I never thought about that, but crazy. When I first seen quails out here, I was like, "Oh, look at all the little baby quails," and people were like, "No, those are the adults." And then little tiny baby quails happened, and I was like, "Holy crap! Tiny quails are nothing out here." I don't know if I can find something that puts them next to something that you can use for scale, but yeah, it's a big difference when they're eating like the occasional, I guess, little bug or something, or like chunk of a cactus compared to just eating grain constantly. But they're pretty neat.
Quails around here are probably about the size of a sparrow that's the diameter of a pigeon. It's kind of a short and stubby bird instead of longer, but to be honest, quails they're around, but I've never bothered hunting them. You'd think we'd have pheasants still here because other birds have come back with a vengeance. Like I'm starting to see turkeys here, and we're a fair piece from the place where the turkeys started here, which is down along the Illinois River. They've populated enough that they're migrating. Well, I'm 20 miles away from it, so they've migrated 20 miles over here into fairly open territory. I'm assuming they're staying pretty close to the Mackinac River, which I'm about 5 miles from. But this year's the first year I've seen wild turkeys over here. So that gives me some hope. Pheasants, I think a big problem with pheasants too is coyote population. I think coyotes are getting the eggs. or babies.
For some reason they're keeping it a secret how much Nebraska quails weigh. Arizona ones, they said they weigh 6.5 ounces.
And I doubt if Illinois' version's much more than that, maybe 8.
They seemed bigger is all I mean. Like if I remember right, back east, a quail would be the size of a football.
Oh shit, not here, no.
Maybe I'm crazy, man.
Size of like 2 tennis balls put together. I would think we'd have a fairly stout population of pheasants and quails and all that here because my uncle raised and turned loose the things for a number of years, and he was turning loose hundreds at a time.
He was just doing it, or was that like a government thing, like you get paid to do it kind of thing?
He was just doing it because he wanted to pay back for all that he had got out of it in his youth. Just something to do, basically. He's retired.
I don't know where I've seen him, if it was like on a hunter safety thing or maybe just on a TV at some point, but I've heard of places where like a farm will have an area that they devote to, like you say, just raising them. And then at some point they just either truck them somewhere and drop dozens of them off or whatever, like you're saying, and just kind of do that as part of the chores of the ranch or whatever, is just keep making extra birds that they put out into the, like you're saying, those like, what do they call those? Like preserved, nature. What do they call that fucking shit? Where they leave the area for the critters, you know, they just come off into the wild areas. What are they called?
Nature preserve here.
Well, between farms, I thought there's a word for like leave a portion of your farm wild.
For here, that's called set aside.
Set aside, yeah, that would be it.
And what that was is that's the government paying them not to plant that, so they leave it for wildlife.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. And people just go like drop critters into that shit.
The government's let them take hay off of it in June, so that just fucks that all up. They need to make the set aside where you don't use it. You just have to let it go back to wild.
Midnight saying when they would get the boneless quails for the restaurant, you know, boneless or whatever for like a meal, they would still give them 2 per order. Because that's bigger than a Cornish hen or whatever. You only get one of them when you eat one, right? I've only eaten those a couple of times. It's another reason I hate eating birds. Tiny ass chickens.
I don't know that I've ever seen a quail processed for eating.
You've seen a Cornish hen though, right?
Oh, yeah. And Cornish hens are quite a bit bigger than quail.
Right.
Same with dove. I mean, dove ain't that much smaller than quail. But what I've seen of dove around here, they just take the breast out of it, which is probably a chunk of meat, a 1/4 inch thick, and the diameter of $50 for a big one.
Belows on the YouTube. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's been 30 years since I've seen this done, so my memory may not be that great.
I really think about that. Now I'm thinking about when was the last time I seen somebody cook quail. Philo on the YouTube side is saying his uncle has land in Kentucky where he lets people hunt quail if they bring 20. Thinks that's a cool idea. So like they raise some quails, bring 20 quails to let loose, and then they can go hunting there for the season type of thing, or like $20. I'm thinking he means 20 quails, right?
Well, that would probably be a better investment than $20.
Make more sense, yeah.
I don't know how many birds my uncle would have turned loose, but I mean, he was growing various small birds. He did a lot of quail and pheasant, and he would turn loose 100 quail at a time. Pheasant, I don't know. I think probably a dozen at a time.
Yeah, he's saying 20 quail. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So like have somebody who's got, it's basically like running pigeons, right? You just have a bunch of coops or whatever, cages, and then have a couple of breeding pairs. I don't know what the can't be that frustrating or difficult. People do it all the time.
And I think that my uncle got the baby pheasants or the chicks from the state, but he wasn't, compensated from the state. They would give him chicks to raise and turn loose. He also went to exotic bird places. There's a place here that has a exotic animal auction every month, I think, or every couple months, something like that. And he would go buy eggs, incubate them, and hatch them.
People are saying that there's places you can just buy them at stores, so I guess that makes sense. You go to like a ranch store and they've got little baby chickens. Maybe they have little baby quails.
Yeah, I went into our big R here probably February, March, and they were putting out the baby chicks. I hadn't seen live baby chickens in the store ever, but they were selling. I actually thought about buying a couple, but I remembered that them cute chicks turn into fucking chickens.
So Patriot was asking about ghetto chickens. People aren't sure if that means rats. I think pigeons or crows. What do you think ghetto chickens are?
Pigeon. That would be my guess.
Yeah, pigeons, okay.
Rats would probably be more known as ghetto squirrel.
There you go.
But squirrels are also known around here as tree rats.
Well, I spent a good amount of effort in my youth raising and then releasing into the wild monkeys, but it turns out everybody's got a problem with that. So that was not a successful effort. But I was hoping to repopulate the forests of Arizona with monkeys. That would have been beneficial to the college.
Well, whoever decided to repopulate Florida with pythons has done a pretty good bit at it.
We were looking, I got stuck into the YouTube wasted time thing the other night, and I found a thing where they had some, I don't know, you know how you'd see the stupid thumbnail, and it was some giant critter, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch this video and see what these 10 craziest giant critters are of all time or something. And one of them was some freaking snake. Have you ever seen this dinosaur snake? Could swallow like a hippopotamus type of snake.
Not in person, no.
They, I mean, I guess I never even heard of such a thing. I think I would have remembered something like a giant snake, but there's some museum and they got the bones of it. You know how they have like a whale bones in a museum? They got this giant snake bones. It looks like some kind of fake science fiction movie. I guess back in the day there was these giant snakes that could go around and like just swallow a crocodile and swallow like a horse or something.
Back when I was a kid, we went down to St. Louis Zoo back when they had the big python. They had one that was almost 30 feet long. And that impressed me. Because, one, I'm petrified of snakes. Right? Definitely was as a kid. And that was the biggest fucking snake I ever saw. I'm probably 7, 8 years old. This fucking snake's bigger around than I am. And I had figured out right then and there I never wanted to see one of them fuckers in the wild, ever. But I think they're getting pythons in Florida that are over 20 feet long.
Well, I'm going to suggest let's get it off of hunting. We've been talking hunting for a while. You just said, though, you didn't have any stuff coming in from the Early Watch Nation?
Not really.
So what we're talking about there is for people that might not be aware, like I said earlier, Tony and Jimmy have been doing the show now for a couple of years on the regular in the mornings, and some of the audience had been taking the lead and helping you guys out with can play in zone, I guess, so that if they're in a different state or whatever, they can send in information from you to help gather it, so you guys could talk about it in the morning. So you've got an email address set up right now. Once you get everything working again, there's other systems, but for now there's an email address that if somebody wanted to send you some Second Amendment related thing for us to talk about.
That's Early Watch, IL as in the abbreviation.
Oh, I think you're cutting in and out. You're cutting in and out for me, but it's Early Watch Nation IL for Illinois. Early Watch Nation IL at gmail.com. You back again? I don't know if I'm cutting out or if Tony's cutting out, so give us some feedback out there. I don't see any stuff coming in on my side. Let me refresh. I'm still on the internet, so give us some feedback. Are you there, Tony? All right, well, I'm screen sharing, so I'm going to jump over to the screen over here while Tony's jumping back in. And we got a couple of things going on. Yesterday was, of course, the anniversary of D-Day. Thought maybe we could try talking about the origin of the D in D-Day, if anybody wanted to. But we do have an event today, and it's a somber occasion. I'm going to play this video. Today is June 7th, and that unfortunately marks the anniversary of the passing of Emil Franzi. Emil was a radio show host, Second Amendment advocate, and a fan of the Old West. A big fan of the movies and TV shows that portrayed the Old West. His radio show, Voices of the West, ran for many years here in Tucson, and he would bring guests in and people involved with the movies, and they'd talk about the guns, the music, the actors, and the movies themselves, and it was infinitely fascinating. I like to consider myself a friend. Emil and I would talk quite often when I'd meet him at gun shops and gun shows throughout the years. I was a big fan of his radio show, and he always was willing and interested in answering questions that were brought up by the topics he talked about. It was a big inspiration for my Old West playing card deck that we did back in 2017, and unfortunately he passed away before he was able to actually see the deck. We did dedicate the deck to Emil, and we hope that today you'll take some time to think about Emil, who died at 78 years old in 2017. Hopefully a long life, an inspiration to others, and the reasons we do what we do. Thanks for watching. Back, Tony.
I believe so. People wouldn't fucking call me. I ain't gonna answer some bitch anyways. Don't bother. I don't know where I dropped out on my dissertation on the early watch, but
it was started to break up when you were dropping the email, so I just went over and looked at a video there. I was saying yesterday was the anniversary of the invasion of Normandy, D-Day, and I don't know if we talked about it too much, but have you ever heard or which origin story have you heard or whatever of the D in D-Day? Or have you ever heard about the I guess controversy or the wondering of what the D signifies, or whether or not it's a legit intentional D or what?
I can't recall hearing anything about that.
Because it seems kind of weird, right? D-Day, but I guess there's a couple theories back in that era, or I don't know, maybe even now, I don't know. When you had an amphibious assault had to start on a specific time, and they would call that D-Day. And so while D-Day is the one we remember as the invasion of Normandy on June 6th, every single amphibious assault had a D-Day. So that's one of the things. But then there's plenty of people that call it like Deportation Day or Demarcation Day or those kind of words, as if the D was an abbreviation for that concept of the, getting ready.
That's what I thought.
But then there's also, just in the general notes like leading up to it, like the art, the actual records or whatever. There's some memorandum, like the memorandum that began it all, I guess. It says something to the effect of, it's a memorandum saying like, when we invade, it'll happen on a specific day and a specific hour. So that'll be D and H, and then blah 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 blah. We'll need this many forces and this and blah blah blah. So it goes into all the details, but it basically says, this event that we're talking about will happen on D day and H hour, and then all this other stuff needs to happen for it to happen. This is like preliminary sketches for this whole concept. And then that D day, H hour just kind of went through. And I think I have heard of H hour before. Like, when people talk about like the time, like it's getting imminent, like the H hour is approaching kind of thing. So I don't know. I never did anything military that ever dealt with any of that stuff. So, and it probably would have been at least 4 decades before I ever experienced any of that stuff anyway. So I don't know what kind of stuff changes, or if anybody out there is a history buff and has put any effort into that or seen anything.
I don't know. D-Day has gotten kind of melded into our language as a phrase itself. So the significance of the original, the actual D-Day, I mean, most people know what it is, but still, it's been used for other things after that. So anything you could have, or I might have heard about it, I can't trust that they're talking about D-Day or some other use of D-Day.
Like as a verb, in other words, like, yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's just the way humans are, I suppose, where they co-opt phrases from certain events in history, and that becomes a phrase meaning, a way more generalized thing than the original.
Yeah, like Hiroshima or Pearl Harbor. This is my Pearl Harbor or something. This is their Pearl
Exactly, yeah. So, unless I've seen something pretty recently, I don't trust things that are stuck in my head from many years ago, because they may not be relevant if I wasn't looking for that information. So if I'd heard something about that in passing, I don't even recall the context, as to what the meaning of D-Day, the D and D-Day was. I don't recall ever even questioning that.
No, and I just thought of it as a
Just
sort of
is.
exactly. I was the same way. So when I saw that people were discussing it, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then, like I said, just did a little bit of research, and I was like, oh, interesting. I never really thought about it having potentially more than one origin. And like I said, I never really thought about it before.
Yeah, that's me neither. It's obvious BE and BJ Day, what those were. That Victory Europe, Victory Japan. Hell, I never thought about that either.
Well, now I'm going to steer it back over to Gun Channel. So one thing, since I'm still screen sharing, what I like to do is kind of scroll through, see what's been happening over on the channels. We were talking about Knives hosting his open lobby, a room that anybody can jump into and talk about guns. That's already open. He started that 10 minutes ago, it looks like. This is the announcement for this show, and then Dano had a show even earlier than this one today. Thanks for hosting that one. Dead Horse had a show and tell last night. It's pretty decent. We hung out in there pretty late. Tina posted this little blurb. Oh, I guess I should turn the volume on, right? Little quick video. Probably gets copyrighted, even though it's 5 seconds.
Somebody please pick up the children.
Thanks, Tina. So then another link to the After Dark. We didn't do a daily gun show last night. I had a meeting, so I got to pay bills. We talked about the Red Dawn that we figured out over on GunTube. So this is it. If you want to watch it, go check it out. It's a couple of 3 hours long, and you get to hear all the commentary and whatnot. Jelsma had his eyewitness fake news yesterday. It's pretty cool to see somebody corking never enough ammo. So if it would have been just maybe 10 minutes longer, Matt probably ran late because he was doing some stuff, but I would have jumped in there. Thanks for hosting the show over on Gun Channel. It's good to see another Wednesday show happening. Clover had his 22 pistol one. I totally missed that one, but that was like a bracket with 22 youth pistols. I don't know which one won. Knives doing another late night show. I didn't watch this, but Clover did a 1,500 subscriber giveaway deal because he just got 1,500 subscribers over on YouTube, and it sounded like he had a ton of stuff to give away. So that was pretty cool. Here's Tony posting that speech that you were talking about yesterday. Posted that when we were in the afternoon chat or something. Rick had his Shooting with Disabilities chat last night.
Yeah, I sit in on that one too.
How was that chat?
It was all right. It wasn't much different from what he did on Saturday.
Rick's always like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. And then, like, I would say a good 70% of the time, it turns into an awesome show. Like, he's just good at winging it, I guess. He always acts like he doesn't know what he's going to talk about. Knives posted this thing about 20th annual Youth Safari Day, Southern California's hunt and fishing store or whatever. Then they do some sort of this is like a chain of stores in Southern California, and from what Knives says, they're really active in Second Amendment stuff. It looks like they have some sort of an event for kids. So it looks like, from the pictures at least, it's everything from boating and checking out critters to shooting and archery. So Safari Club International, you familiar with them?
Not at all.
Kind of neat. It's I'm only familiar with it because SCI is headquartered here in Tucson. So if you head out east in Tucson, if you were going to go to Old Tucson, where there's like a kind of a place where you can see where the old movies used to be filmed, then there's a wildlife museum out there, and there's some shooting ranges out on the far west side of town, out kind of where Russ lives. So if you're heading out that way from town, you're going to pass the Safari Club International Museum. It's a museum, and they call it a zoo. And Safari Club International is international type hunters, big game, whatever you call stuff from Africa, and crazy, giant, weird, exotic animals. So it's like the, what would you call, like the organizing group that decides, when they're going to count how big an elephant tusk has to be for it to be the biggest elephant tusk, or whatever the hell those big safari type hunters shoot at. Like how big a lion has to be for it to be the biggest lion, just like, they do with deer and everything else. So anyway, they're the governing body, I guess is the word for determining that, from what I understand. I'm not an expert on this stuff. But anyway, they have all these mounts. The zoo, quote unquote, museum is just a ton of mounts from hunts. So I think it is, world record stuff and crazy, unique stuff, probably extinct stuff. And in a lot of ways, I'm sure people loathe that whole idea. But on the other end, there's animals that would have been processed and ate and just, completely disappeared. Maybe there would have been a photograph, but now there's a life-size, the animal to go through time, existing. So you see those in museums and stuff, and nobody thinks about how those got shot and stuffed. This is just creating museum from the trophies. Anyway, it's kind of an interesting place, and this has nothing to do with it other than the logo is on here, but I just thought that was neat. You don't see Safari Club doing stuff, giant logo like that very often. At least I don't. So anyway, that's part of the I guess sponsorship of this event with a bunch of gun shops out in California. This is real similar to a thing they do in Arizona, but the Arizona state does it here, and it doesn't cost anything. It looks like this is an effort of a company, a private business. That's kind of neat. I like that. That's capitalism right there.
Yes, sir.
$15 is kind of expensive, but in California, it's an opportunity to get your kid out to see handgun, turkey calling, decoy painting, horseback riding, paintball, archery, all this kind of stuff that could probably be a great way to, get a kid a taste of all that stuff in one visit.
I'll tell you one thing. I see it says dog demonstrations. If you've never been out hunting with the dog, and I'm not real particular what kind of hunting or what kind of dog, you've missed something that you really need to see, because in every form of hunting with a dog I've ever done, it has been so damn impressive to watch a dog work.
Their enthusiasm and like pleasure in doing their job, and then when they know how to do a job well, like they actually know what they're doing, it's neat to watch a dog just be a master at their craft, right?
Yeah, that's the big reason why I fell in love with coon hunting, is the dogs. I could give a shit less about getting coons, because the only time I've ever tried it was freaking greasy. It was gross. But it is impressive as hell to watch a good dog work, and that works for bird dogs or retrievers out there retrieving down ducks. Anything. I could watch dogs hunting anytime. And I wouldn't even have to ask what sport they were or what game they were hunting. If somebody asked me to go, yeah, sure, I'll go. Just watch damn dog work. But please, if you're going to ask, make sure it's coon hunting. That's the one I missed the most.
Now, what about the dudes that tree lions with dogs? Would you go watch them do that?
Oh, hell yes, I would.
I couldn't do that. Maybe like not a mountain lion, maybe a African lion. That'd be different, but not one of our lions. All right, so next up is Gun Channel's trading cards. So we made those little mini trading cards for Tulsa. So we had 10 decks made, and people bought those, and that funded 1,000 cards that I still haven't even dished out. I haven't been able to ship them to everybody yet, but everybody at Tulsa was able to get a stack of cards, and people that have been doing stuff actively on Gun Channels got a bunch of cards. So that effort was successful, but now people been asking for an opportunity to get a deck, another deck. So I only made the 10 or whatever. I didn't really think it would be that big a demand for them. So anyway, I put out this poll to find out, because I have had people ask me that when I would make some more, and I'm broke. So I need to figure out, how much. I can't just buy 10 of them, let's say, find out I only need 3, because at this point it looks like they need 4. So if you are interested in getting a Gun Channel's trading card deck, there's no obligation here. It's not like a pre-order or anything, but I do need to get a reasonable expectation of how many to order. And I mean, I can order them again, but if, whatever, if people want them, this is the time to let me know so I can get those going. Then I did this video on the prototype deck for another project. We'll talk about that in a minute. Ohio posted this link to Brownells. I think we might have talked about that yesterday, right at the end of the show, because I think this was already up by the time we ended. But here's the thing. Somebody went and bought $235 worth of stuff or something off of Brownells using this. Hopefully they got themselves $23 off, and that brought in sweet $15 to Gun Channels. So thank you.
You was on air when that happened.
Huh?
We was on air when that happened.
Right on. So
we got to hear the cash register.
So, well, that thing won't make a cash register bleep, but what'll happen is now I get these alerts from eBay saying like, oh, you get 10% off because it's whatever. It's National Sock Day, so 10% off all bids. So I get those every once in a while now. But anyway, this thing was somebody purchased something through Brownells, I think. So again, appreciate that very much to Ohio and whoever the hell bought $235 worth of stuff. Enjoy it. Hopefully it's a little sweeter knowing that you kept Gun Channels going. You kept the furnaces at Gun Channels going for a couple of hours.
I wasn't intending that thing made the cash register down, but that happened while we was talking about that Brownells ad.
Oh, okay. I hear you. Right on. Well, enjoy. Otherwise, we're back.
While we're here on the Tulsa area and these organizations and whatnot, I just want to say something that I've tried to get out there a few times right after Tulsa, but Jimmy didn't want to talk about Tulsa at all, ever on the show. if you're out in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area, do yourself a freaking favor and go to the J.M. Davis Firearms Museum and Will Rogers Museum. They're a mile apart. And be prepared to want to spend a day or two in J.M. Davis. It's the most impressive gun collection I've ever seen by a mile.
And the most accessible. Like, it's not 10 feet, 6 guns 10 feet beyond some cord. I mean, there's a piece of glass between you and the gun, but you're maybe 8 inches from every gun.
And if you're even remotely a gun guy or gal, I would not miss that. And when we was out there, me and the old lady went to it twice. Once by ourselves, and then once we went as the Gun Channels group and got the tour. The tour was great, but if you're there, just by yourself, don't avoid it. Go ahead and go through the museum because it's freaking amazing. And you can go through that. Somebody's probably, I don't know, I'd say you probably go through it 10 times and find stuff you missed.
Yeah, I've been there, I don't know, 5 visits or something. I don't know how many actual times in the building, and there's no possible way, dude. There's not even a way. There's no way I can know all those rifles. And just the stuff I'm really interested in, I still continue to find more.
Yeah, I have pictures that are actually my desktop now, because I scroll all of my gun stuff on my desktop. And every once in a while, something will pop up and I'll catch it on there that I want to go ahead and look closer at. So I'm glad that I took what photos I did, but I wish to Christ I'd remember to take my damn camera with me.
Oh, instead of your phone, you mean?
I wasn't sure how good they were going to be, so I didn't get crazy with taking pictures. I took a couple dozen.
Now, here's the other thing. You're dead on there, but the nice thing about having the Gun Channels kind of event there is you got everybody's camera there. So a couple of the guys took incredible pictures. Have you seen Raphael's pictures of the museum?
I don't think so.
With his camera, he's been there a few times, so he already had some recon. He already had some experience with and knew what to expect. But his camera and cutting through that glare, he's just an expert at it. He had really well lit, just crisp pictures. Ohio, excellent pictures. Gary's pictures blow me away. And of course, Clover and Ghost have been there before too, so their video and stuff is all pretty dead on. So what I like is, like you're saying, you can go through and watch stuff, and once you've been there, you got a little bit more insight, I guess. So when you're seeing it, you're realizing what you hadn't seen in real life. So it's sort of like a chance to go through and check things out again, or see slower, I guess.
I'm just trying to get the wheels greased for November. Hopefully people will go out there in November. I'm not, but.
Well, we'll be doing another get-together to kind of see where everybody's at. And then, so another get-together to kind of see where everybody is, and then plan the next get-together, which will be the one where we wrap everything up and say thank you to Wanamaker, and looking forward to November, because that should be somewhere in like July or maybe August. So we got a little time before the next one. And then that'll give us time to figure out who all's going to November, and then knowing what we know now, prep or prepare as much as possible to make it better for everybody. And then, that's a great idea. Keep it in the short list of things to address so that we don't forget about it until the last minute.
Well, I'll tell you about our trip to Tulsa and Wanamaker, and my wife's reaction was, and bear in mind that this is a woman who does not do well in a crowded Walmart. And Wanamaker was as packed as I've ever seen something being. And her first thing on our way home was, we got to start saving money to go back there next year. I'm like, cool. But she really loved it. And she was even surprised herself that the people didn't bother her. I mean, the being in a crowd, because she has a real problem with that. And she loved it enough to want to go back. So, that should tell you something right there, and how good a time it is out there.
So a couple of things. I'm going to jump back. Well, we were pretty much done with going through the main page gun channels anyway. I guess we got back to yesterday's show. Ozzy posted a thing here on the on the YouTube side that there's 2 lawsuits filed against fucking Deerfield, Illinois, to stop that gun ban before it goes into effect. So thanks for that post. It's great to hear that. I kind of assumed it, but it's good to have the word that it actually is going through.
Before I bring that up anymore, I'm waiting to see what happens with their trying to get the injunction to stop it until it goes to court. And that should happen today or tomorrow.
Good. And we'll, of course, update people with what we find out, right?
Right.
And we got Patriot saying SCI, that's Safari Club International. One of its founders runs stuff for disabled veterans. Outstanding guys. Says he knows them if you need a contact. Awesome. Yeah, it's an interesting museum, but yeah, I've only ever heard positive stuff about SCI. And then I'm hoping it's okay that we talk about this. I hope it's not a secret or whatever, but where do you Ozzy's talking about, he said, I'm still toying with the idea of a holster covered in blue jean material, denim. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. Have you ever seen a holster that was covered in denim?
I pretty much thought of that idea here about a year ago. I was thinking about taking my old freaking pair of blue jeans and cutting the bottom of the leg off, putting it over my holster so I could wear my 629 on my hip.
Mm-hmm. And then, like I was thinking, just so that it blends in with your pant color more, and then it's sort of a concealment effort.
Right. That's where I was going. It'd be.
Yeah.
But I'm not a seamstress or a leather crafter or anything like that. I just never got around to it.
Well, I got to assume it's the same as when they make things out of snakeskin. When you get like a snakeskin, alligator skin holster, that ain't alligator skin ain't thick enough for that. So they make it out of cow, and then they wrap it with the whatever fancy skin by just gluing it on there like a laminate. So I would imagine it's the same way. You just spread some glue on there and glue a piece of denim on. Plus,
I would say so, yeah.
It's a good material. It's not like some wimpy material that's going to wear out. You know, it'd actually be durable. So I think that's kind of a good idea. I'm surprised nobody's doing that. So maybe we just seen the beginning of a brand new holster company start right now.
Well, he's from Illinois too, so we have to figure out creative ways to hide our guns.
So because it happened on our show, do we just take the 70% and give him 30, or I don't know how that works, but we'll have our lawyers figure that out.
Yeah. We'll have our people contact your people, Mike.
Mm-hmm. Make a bunch of money and then send us a chunk of it, and then we'll decide if that's enough. All right, so I know we're getting, I don't remember when we started, so we're probably getting similar to the end here. We know Knives is over there, but I did want to jump over and talk about one of my projects, and I'll let the video do the talking because I waste all this time making a 3-minute video.
All right, taking a look at another version of the 2A history project.
The hell, you have to go to YouTube now to make it full screen? What a bunch of jerks.
Project. And now I'm all about the cards, so I wanted to try around another concept for some trading cards.
I didn't show this one yesterday, right? I didn't get these till last night.
Not that I remember, no.
Okay.
So I set it up to look like this, where if you were to lay the back of the cards down, you get the firearms laws of the United States on this one. And then you get this timeline. And if you were to lay down this timeline all in a row, it would help you get the significance of just how recent most of the firearms laws are. So you'll see this big span of almost 100 years of nothing. And as you see, there's quite a few. So there's a timeline on one side. It's back together.
I just needed to do something with the back that wasn't boring, I figured. Or a waste of time, at least, with the designs.
And then on the other side, we have the 2A activists, starting with the two people that created the NRA, and Burnside, who was first president of the NRA. And we've got Warren Page, who is the creator of the, what's it called? The shooting editor for Fieldstream. He created the National Conference on the Shooting Sports, which turned out to be NSSF, which turned out to be a SHOT Show. Then we got Harlan Carter and Neil Knox, which are the two people responsible for the 77 Cincinnati Revolt. We've got Bill Richardson from California, who created Gun Owners in California, which became Gun Owners of America. We got Don Cates, who's a lawyer, and along with Joyce Malcolm, were responsible for my research, the modern interpretation of the Second Amendment as a right to self-defense. Then we got Larry Pratt, the Gun Owners of America. We got Aaron Zellman, the JPFO, Jews for Preservation of Firearms Ownership. LaPierre, got John Lott, the researcher and author. Alan Gura, and David Kopel, the lawyers responsible for McDonald and Heller. Firearms Law of the United States, and the second are the 2A History Project. Oh, so I want to thank everyone for supporting our stuff, and this is another attempt at getting some of the 2A history in a format that's easier to deal with. I didn't do playing cards this time, just did it on the card format, sort of a trading card type of thing. Hopefully a way to help identify who is responsible and at what point in history for the state of the Second Amendment and our freedom that we have today. So this is an attempt, a little toe in the water towards this project. I'm not fully funded at all here, so I did make a second deck if anyone's interested. This one will go up on the 24/7 Gun Show to hopefully pay for the printing of these. And we'll test the waters with these and see if anybody's interested in seeing some 2A history in the form of trading cards, flash cards, whatever you want to call these, and give us some feedback. This is another attempt at looking at our 2A history, standing on the shoulders of those that have already done so that we can move ahead further. Thanks everybody for watching. I appreciate your support. And as always,
those are cool. You might put an idea together with the deck with important people in the history of firearms.
Mm-hmm.
Like Epaulet Remington, Colt, Walker, Henry. Of course, there's God, Browning, Skeeter Davis, who's the other one? Elmer Keith.
Well, now you're talking, I guess, innovation. I'm going to call the inventors and the innovators two different things. But I'm with you. You're right down what I'm trying to do. So the 2A History Project. Oh, we lost Instagram, so goodbye Instagram. 2A History Project. The goal is to illustrate. I'm a visual person. I'd rather see for me at least, having the flashcard concept, having something I can see and whatever, it just plugs in my brain faster for trying to understand concepts and timelines and stuff. So with that in mind, I want to cards are a step towards that. But I had to start somewhere, and I figured, if a lot of projects you start and they don't go anywhere, if I was going to do one, I could do it with the inventors. I could do it with gunmen and lawmen. I could do it with gangsters. I could do it with guns or something. Inventions, like you're saying, like the innovation of calibers. And I'm interested in pursuing all of those. It'll be part of the overall 2A history project. But I felt if this thing didn't go anywhere, then I wanted to have a deck of Second Amendment advocates exist, because probably nobody gives a shit about this. So I just wanted to see that exist in the world. But this concept, this idea that everything is related, everything is built on the shoulders of others, everything has some interconnectivity, and this is a poorly designed, this is just my first attempt, but when I design this better, things like the Doctors for Gun Ownership, Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership, DRGO, that's actually comes off of the Second Amendment Foundation. The FPC, the Firearms Policy Coalition in Florida, or California, excuse me, that comes from the Second Amendment Foundation originally. So I'd rather eventually have this kind of illustrate some of the relationships as well. But this is, again, just a first attempt, and I don't have unlimited time, so I sneak these in the middle of the night when everybody else is sleeping. But the idea is to have this for, like you say, inventions. So we can start with the first inventors, and these guys interacted with each other, especially Colt, Smith & Wesson, and Winchester and all them. They were friends and allies and adversaries, and they hated each other sometimes, right? So I want to eventually have one of these for all those different things. I want to have the groups themselves, not just the individuals, and then, of course, move into the guns. But the guns are the low-hanging fruit, and I'd rather, again, if I'm going to start getting into something, I'd rather dig into something that's not done before, and hopefully a little more interesting for those few people that are going to see this and say, oh, fuck, you mean Alan Gottlieb, when he created the Citizens Committee to Keep and Bear Arms, he was 26 years old, and that's the Second Amendment Foundation today, and that's what got constitutional carry to Illinois? A dude, when he was 26, efforted and kept efforting, and that happened? I just want to make sure that kind of stuff gets out there. But basically, the goal would be to have this for the inventors, for the innovators of technique. So you're going to have, you know, let's start with the original guys who started the NRA. That was because of the issues with the competency and the skill set of the soldiers at the time, right? So you could consider one of these guys, I forget the name of this guy here, wrote books on shooting. The other, actually, I forget. This guy's the guy who wrote books on shooting. This guy started the physical education concept in the schools in New York. So these guys had some influence at the beginning of shooting. And if you look at an overall timeline, if I scroll down a little bit and look at the overall timeline of all guns, which will be another one once I do it, the United States is always first, right? Then we'll eventually do all guns. Guns didn't even happen till some point, right? And then at some point we used them for hunting, and then it was pretty much here. The first recorded pistol match ever was 1860. So we're not talking about prehistory. We're talking about stuff that's completely archived. So I'm going to do, you know, eventually branches that show the evolution of the shooting sports, because that would be infinitely interesting. And what goes along with that is the evolution of the machines, the guns themselves, the calibers. So, and again, I guess I got caught off on the techniques themselves. So you're going to have the original guys who were like the fundamentals of shooting when their things were like rifles and single shot guns. You know, that's going to change when there's revolvers. Then there's going to be somebody like you're saying, Elmer Keith and the Ken Hackathorn and people who were like shooting revolvers and stuff. And then you get your all kinds of stuff. So anyway, this is the beginning of hopefully an elaborate project. I'll bring it to life on the website through videos and live chats, because archiving information is one thing, but having live organic discussions is what hopefully, you know, gets people inspired to add to this, to make it a collaborative effort instead of just me freaking writing a mural on the wall. Doing things like bringing them into real life with the flashcards. I'm hoping, you know, maybe that's something that people that are doing homeschooling, or just somebody that wants their kids to learn something that's not taught in a regular school. I doubt the regular school is teaching the evolution of the Second Amendment activism in this country. So anyway, it'll be a large project. If we can keep people interested, it'll evolve. And also got some other ideas of what to do to bring this stuff up off the internet into real life so that it can be as effective as possible, so that we're not repeating some of the same things. If you look at some of these cycles, like right now people are frustrated with the NRA. Well, guess what? That's a 10-year cycle. People have been frustrated with sometimes in response to national legislation. Another thing that's trying to be shown on this timeline type of tree thing here is that look at how many organizations happen after fucking federal restrictions, federal infringements. That creates activism. Those activists, you know, are doing work. Let's not repeat that work. If there's anything that's similar between that circumstance and now, let's learn from these guys who were 26 years old in 1971 and have been doing it now for 50 years. So let's not ignore these guys because they're old and boring. Let's acknowledge them for their contributions, learn their history, and build on that, like these guys at Firearms Policy, Pink Pistols, and the other modern organizations are doing. All right, that's my little commercial or whatever. If you want to grab that deck, it cost me like $30 to make those 2 prototypes. I always have to make a prototype so I can see what the art actually looks like on the card. If you take a look at that video, some of the heads are squished up, and I need to see how big the writing is. So I always have to make one, and since I'm broke, I couldn't afford to just make one, so I made 2. and hopefully that second one will bring in more than the whatever $30 it cost me to actually get the deck created. We'll do some sort of probably a crowdfunding thing to see what kind of interest there might be and how big this deck can be. I'm thinking I could probably do 54 cards with just activists. And then do you want to start talking about inventors? I'm sure I could figure out 54 inventors. And, then we start looking towards trainers and innovators in tech. I'm probably looking at least 3 decks. And then I'd like to get into the cowboys and outlaws and lawmen and trappers and some of that kind of fun stuff, and the explorers. Get some history in there. Honestly, I'd like to eventually get to things like just the language that we have. So all of that will eventually be part of the 2A history project. If it doesn't get funded because nobody gives a shit about seeing these things happen in real life, then it'll just, like all my projects, will slowly happen as I have time to work on them in the afternoons. But, sorry, I interrupted you there.
I was just going to say, I got a fun idea for one of these. Is each time Colts shot themselves in the foot, make a whole deck out of that.
Well, seriously, when you start, and that's the other thing, is once these, if I can do it with enough broad scope, right, then I should be able to build the decks in such a way that relationships over time, such as so we have 3 main waves of gun control. We have situations happened in politics, like assassinations and riots and shit. We have things like efforts at the anti-gun side to do things like attack the manufacturers or attack state laws or attack private ownership or attack gun shows, all the different things that they demonize. So once all those things are on little pieces of card like that, ideally you could have like a deck that once you put all the expansion packs together, now you can see some relationship between like, the major things that influenced, and I don't know, maybe somewhere out of all that, somebody smart and somebody with some fresh perspective can figure out some of the cycles and figure out the angles on how to harden ourselves to not be led into these fucking ambushes so that we can change the dynamic. It's only going to take changing the dynamic once, like it happened in 1994, and we can get 10 years of reprise. And ideally, we're going to learn that what we did resulted in 10 years of reprise. So that'll harden us as a community to where it'll never happen again. And I think that's possible with effort, as long as somebody pays attention to it and a couple of people work towards that. Or maybe I'm crazy and I'm writing a bunch of cards for no reason, but somebody will be entertained watching me do it at least.
I don't think you're crazy. I would have never thought of the format like that, but I think it's a pretty good idea, actually. Especially when you start looking across the decks for connection.
Well, that's what I'm discovering as I dig in and I'll be researching something. Like people like to go, oh, the NRA started all these gun controls. Well, who's telling you that, right? So go read the transcripts. We were reading that yesterday, right? It's ultimately fascinating. And when you're reading something like that, it'll spin you off for different directions. Like, oh, that happened. Oh, this is when this started. And, this is a way to archive all that and put it into spatial relationship so that those associations can be seen where normally they would be disassociated completely.
The NRA, and I don't know why people have such trouble grasping this, but the NRA has never been the Second Amendment is absolute organization. They've always given in to some restriction, thinking that they're doing the best deal possible. That has not changed within the NRA, and that's who they are. That's why I didn't get pissed off at them for that particular deal when they threw bump stocks under the bus, so to speak.
Well, to understand that that's probably a Fox is going to be a Fox type of thing is not the same as okay and being okay with it. But let's also not forget that in '94 they did not do the typical. So that's the exception to the rule, and it was exceptional because it kept the antis off of everybody's back for like 10 years. More, but you're right. There's always been nuance to everything, and again, under scrutiny, that all becomes evident. And hopefully, once it's easily accessible, we can all move on from the maybe this, or I think I heard that. And, somebody who read a book mentioned that it's mentioned in the book, hopefully it's just a bunch of bullet points on some accessible data, then we can all move on and we all know that history. It's a shared history. We can move forward and create new history.
Like I say, it sounds like a good idea to me.
Cool. Well, I got 2 people on board. But yeah, I'm going to keep efforting on that. We'll keep you up to date. And like I say, if you do want to help, I could definitely use the $30 back on those decks. So right now it's, I think, last I looked, I think 8 or somebody's bought it for 25. So go outbid them for 30 and know that I'm not out anything on set my time on building those at this point. And we'll keep working on that. And do we want to do anything else on today? Covered all of my stuff, I think.
I have stuff that is not specific when I do it, so we don't have to do anything else. That's fine.
Okay. Well, I know that I've got an appointment here in about 10 minutes to start working on books so that I don't put them off till the end of the year like always. So I'm going to go figure out how much money I made last month and where it all went. And then we'll be back here tomorrow, maybe a little bit earlier, maybe the same time.
Yeah, that's fine. I hope we get to do it earlier, but if not,
I'll shoot for earlier. I just don't want to give you a guarantee because I'm still in this transition. Eventually, I'll get to where I'm here bright and early. I'm just trying to figure out where to stick my walking into the mix.
maybe we can cork Dano trying to cork us.
Yeah, seriously, or get Dano to jump in. Dano's always got good stuff to add. I'm going to go find a music. And then I think I was going to say one other thing, but I was looking over here. Oh, I just want to thank everybody again for your patience with the gun channels thing where you have to refresh all the time. Hoping that'll just wash through now that the updates happen. But if it hasn't, I won't know that for a few hours until I'm satisfied that it has not yet happened. And then I can go back and bitch about it and try to get it worked on. But it might be a couple hours a day of having to refresh. So again, I appreciate the people who are willing to deal with that. But we don't have a staff here. We got me, and I've got to also do my bills here for a bit and then sell a bunch of shit on eBay so that I don't lose the band. So I'm sick of bitching about shit. Tony can wrap us up.
I just refreshed. I've got to remember to do that more often.
Hopefully it'll end today.
Pretty much. I hope everybody out there can have a good day. Again, thank you for hosting this and Jimmy Stead while he's gone doing what he's got to do.
Very happy to do it. Appreciate the opportunity.
And if you want to contact me, my email is earlywatchil, all one word, lowercase, @gmail.com. And good day, everybody.
Whoops. Act like that didn't happen. Imagine this being a smooth transition from Tony.